For nearly 3 centuries, one of the most valuable substances on Earth was a secret so guarded that carrying it out of Spain could cost you your life. And almost no one knew it was a bug. Begin with a color so intense it seemed impossible. A red brighter than blood, deeper than any dye Europe had ever seen, and colorfast, holding its brilliance where other reds faded to brown. It arrived in European ports as small, dried, silvery gray grains, and for a long time, no one could agree what they even were. Was it a seed? A berry? A worm? The confusion was understandable. The grains were tiny. It took about 70,000 dried ones to make roughly 450 grams of dye, a single pound. Merchants argued, naturalists guessed, and the one power that knew the truth said nothing at all. That silence was worth a fortune. The source of this red was cochineal, and its story does not begin in Europe. Long before any Europeans set foot in the Americas, Indigenous Mesoamerican peoples had learned to farm a tiny insect that lived on the pads of the prickly-pear cactus. The Aztecs were using this bright red as early as the 10th century. For generations, cultivators in what is now southern Mexico had perfected a delicate craft, raising, harvesting, and drying an insect most of the world would never even recognize as alive. So how did a bug farmed on a cactus become worth its weight in silver? And why would an empire kill to keep it hidden? Part 1. When Tenochtitlan fell. The answer arrived with conquest. When the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan fell in 1520, the Spanish encountered this red in the markets and tribute of the peoples they now ruled. They did not invent it. They inherited it and immediately recognized what they were holding. Shortly after Tenochtitlan fell, the Spanish began shipping dried insect scales back across the Atlantic to Spain. The dye's popularity surged after it reached Venice in the early 1540s, and from there, the appetite for it spread like the color itself. Trade routes fanned out from New Spain to Seville, and later to Cadiz. By the 1540s, cochineal red was reaching France, Flanders, England, and the great Italian cities. By the 1570s, it had crossed the Pacific too, traveling through Acapulco and the Philippines into East Asia. This was a genuinely global commodity, and it moved in staggering quantities. At its peak in the early 17th century, some 250 to 300,000 pounds of cochineal were shipped to Spain every single year. Consider what that meant on the ground. Each pound demanded tens of thousands of insects, each one raised and picked by hand. Behind every crate lay an ocean of patient, meticulous labor. And behind that labor stood the people who had always done this work, now doing it under a new and far heavier master. To grasp what cochineal became, you have to abandon the idea that this was just a dye. In Spain's American Empire, cochineal was the most important cash crop in all of New Spain. In some years, it was worth half its own weight, or more, in silver. Over 3 centuries, only silver itself delivered more wealth to the Spanish crown. Think about that. A tiny insect farmed on a desert cactus stood second only to the silver mines that funded an empire. It held a worth akin to gold and silver, and it strengthened Spain's economic influence across the world while stimulating global trade. And the color found the highest places it could reach. Back in 1454, the robes of Catholic cardinals had been changed to a vibrant red. By 1558, those very robes were being dyed with American cochineal. By the 1600s, the same red was coloring the uniforms of English officers, the famous Redcoats. Cardinals, kings, and commanders were quite literally wrapped in the crushed bodies of an insect from Oaxaca. But here is the tension at the heart of this wealth. All of it depended on a secret. If the rest of the world ever learned that this priceless red could be farmed from a bug on a cactus. Part 2, guarded on pain of death. And worse, learned how to farm it themselves. Spain's fortune could vanish overnight. So the empire did what empires do. It built a wall around the secret. The wall was made of law, of ports, and of fear. Spain prohibited the export of live cochineal insects outside the empire entirely. In the 16th century, only 2 ports, Seville and Cadiz, were even permitted to import the dye, funneling the entire trade through a narrow, watchable channel. And the penalties were absolute. As the historian Amy Butler Greenfield notes, gold, silver, or cochineal could not be taken out of Spain without authorization, on pain of death. That is how valuable a living insect had become. To smuggle a bug could cost you your life. Meanwhile, the mystery of what cochineal actually was persisted for generations. The grains were so small that Europeans genuinely could not tell whether they were dealing with a plant or an animal. The riddle was finally solved by science. When a particle of cochineal was placed under the microscope of Antonie van Leeuwenhoek, it was identified for what it truly was, a bug. The secret's biology was now exposed. But knowing it was an insect was not the same as possessing the living insect and the knowledge to raise it. And across Europe, rival powers were done waiting. If Spain would not sell the source, they would take it. What followed was one of history's strangest intelligence wars. Part 3, the Spies and the Botanist. Fought over an insect the size of a grain of rice. The English tried force. Between 1570 and 1577, at least 13 English raiding parties sailed to the Caribbean hunting for cochineal, hoping to seize shipments and perhaps the secret itself. France chose a quieter weapon. It sent spies, and of all of them, only one man ever truly succeeded: the French botanist Nicolas-Joseph Thierry de Menonville, who set sail in 1776. His mission reads like an adventure novel, but every step was real. When the viceroy ordered him to leave rather than open the country's secrets, Menonville did not obey. He slipped over the ramparts of Veracruz and traveled inland disguised as a Catalan, making his way toward Oaxaca, where the finest cochineal in the world was produced. In 1777, he reached it. There he learned the craft of cultivation directly from local planters, the very knowledge Spain had tried so hard to seal away. He bought insects and cacti, and then he hid them, tucking his contraband among ordinary herbal specimens so that a nosy inspector would see nothing but a botanist's harmless plant collection. Then he smuggled the insects, still clinging to their cactus pads, across the water to the French colony of Saint-Domingue, where he set about raising them and established a nopal plantation. It worked. For his triumph, France rewarded him lavishly. The title Botanist du Roi, Botanist to the King, and a handsome annuity of 6,000 livres. The unbreakable monopoly had finally been broken, or had it? Part 4, the color that almost vanished. The victory dissolved almost as fast as it came. Menonville's transplanted colony of insects had taken hold. But in 1780, only a few years after his daring theft, the botanist died. His insects, now neglected with no master to tend them, died too. The project he had risked his life to build simply came to nothing. Spain's secret had leaked, yet its rivals still could not easily replace what the peoples of Oaxaca had spent centuries perfecting. And it is worth pausing here, because the true center of this story was never the spies or the kings. Throughout the colonial era, the cultivation and harvest were carried out by indigenous Mesoamerican peoples, who had done this work for generations, long before Spain arrived. Under Spanish rule, they were paid in pennies, while their skilled, painstaking labor sustained an entire imperial fortune. The wealth flowed to Seville and Rome and London. The knowledge, the patience, and the hands remained in Oaxaca. What no spy or law could ultimately defeat, chemistry did. In the mid-19th century, European laboratories discovered cheaper synthetic alternatives, alizarin crimson and other artificial dyes. Suddenly, a brilliant red no longer required 70,000 insects per pound. Spain's cochineal industry declined, and the use of carminic acid in textiles waned. The bug the world had fought over for 3 centuries was quietly abandoned. Part 5. Back to the cactus, forward to the lab. But it was not gone. The red refused to disappear. The same pigment that once dyed cardinals' robes found a new life in an unexpected place: our food and cosmetics. Between 1967 and 2009, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration gradually approved cochineal extract and carmine, and today, that ancient insect color still tints yogurts, cakes, candies, beverages, and meats. The red on your plate may be older than you think, yet the old problem never really went away. Harvesting cochineal remains intensely labor-intensive, still measured in tens of thousands of tiny insects per pound. As modern demand and prices rise, that fragile, hand-tended supply is strained. And so the story loops back on itself in a very modern way. Scientists are now exploring genetic engineering to produce carminic acid more cheaply, faster, and more sustainably, trying to brew in the laboratory the very molecule that indigenous farmers first coaxed from a cactus over 1,000 years ago. It is worth sitting with that arc. A color born of Mesoamerican skill became an imperial treasure guarded on pain of death, then the target of raiders and disguised spies, then a casualty of industrial chemistry, and now a puzzle for genetic engineers. Through every chapter, the essential truth held steady. The most intense red the early modern world ever knew was never magic and never a European invention. It was a tiny insect, a desert cactus, and the patient knowledge of the people who first learned to bring the two together. This story touches on colonial exploitation and the erasure of indigenous labor. If these histories weigh on you, consider reaching out to community historians, indigenous cultural organizations, or a trusted support line in your country, and seek out indigenous voices telling their own stories.